The clock showed 1:23 a.m. when time stopped at that exact moment, forever. But what history doesn't tell you is that this clock was measuring more than just time. In Control Room 4, the engineers were preparing for a routine test. A simple test, just an experiment to see if the turbines could generate enough electricity to power the cooling pumps in case of a main power outage. A minor issue in the cooling system had appeared a few days earlier, but the officials decided to go ahead with the test anyway. They were in a hurry. They wanted to finish before the shift ended. The clock was there, watching. Alexander Akimov, the chief engineer, wiped the sweat from his brow. He joked to his colleagues, "This clock frightens me. Every time I look at it, I feel like it's looking back at us." Everyone laughed. They didn't know the clock was witnessing something no clock had ever witnessed before. The room was hot, hotter than usual. The gauges trembled. The indicators jumped, but no one noticed. 48 hours before the explosion, the night shift guards took turns monitoring the area. Later, historians reviewing the surveillance tapes noticed that they paused for a moment in front of that clock. Each one stopped, as if it was calling for their attention. One said, "It's running slower today." Another said, "No, faster." They argued. They didn't know the time in that room had a will of its own. In the final moments, engineer Leonid Toptunov was adjusting the meters. He looked at the clock. It was 1:22. He said to a colleague, "If only the hands could move backward." His colleague asked, "Why?" He replied, "I don't know, just a feeling." Seconds later, something happened that made everyone wish it could. When the operator pressed the emergency button at 1:23:39, the clock watched him. Physicists now say the explosion occurred at a moment when the operators thought the reactor was safe, but the clock knew the truth. It knew they were only 39 seconds late. 39 seconds separated life from death. 39 seconds were enough to change the fate of all Europe. After the explosion, the story of the clock became even more mysterious. Emergency workers saw it as they entered the control room, minutes after the disaster. The room was full of radioactive dust. The lights flickered, alarms screamed, but the clock kept ticking. Its hands moved slowly. 1:24, 1:25. It reached 1:26 and then stopped. Why exactly 1:26? No one knows. An experienced guard who was at the main entrance that night said, "I saw the clock stop. There was a man standing in front of it, wearing ordinary clothes. Not one of the workers." He looked at the clock, then at me, and said only one sentence. "It's time to leave." Then he vanished. Moments later, we heard the explosion. No one ever found that man. At the Chernobyl Museum today, there is a single clock hanging on the wall. Its hand stopped at 1:26. Below it, it reads, "Time stopped here." But few know that this clock is not the original. The real clock disappeared days after the accident. Some say it was removed because it was emitting more radiation than anything else in the room. Others say someone took it. But why would anyone take a radioactive clock? Strangely, everyone who was in the control room that night remembered one detail in common. The clock's hands moved backward in the final moments. A nurse who treated survivors said, "One of the engineers told me before he died that they saw the clock move backward. 10 minutes. A full 10 minutes backward. Then it stopped. Then it surged forward at a terrifying speed until it reached 1:23, and everything exploded." Scientists explained this as hallucinations caused by radiation. But the engineers there swear they saw it with their own eyes. In the Red Forest, where no one dares to go, an exploration team found something strange years later, a wristwatch lying on the ground. It was still working. Its hands were moving. They carefully picked it up and noticed that it suddenly stopped at 1:23. Then it started working again. Then it stopped. This is how it behaves to this day. It ticks twice and then stops, as if trying to send a message, as if trying to warn someone. The old Russian man who worked at the plant said before he died of cancer, "The clock wasn't measuring time, it was measuring sins. Every sin we committed there, the clock recorded, and when it filled up, it exploded." Perhaps he was right. In the end, we made the clock. We programmed it to measure minutes and seconds for us, but we never asked ourselves, what was it measuring about us? Today, if you stand in front of Reactor 4's ruins and contemplate the terrifying silence, you might hear it. You might hear faint ticking coming from under the rubble. Ticking that doesn't stop. Ticking that counts the remaining time. Not for the reactor, but for us.